Hi everyone, it's Victor speaking, and today we will be looking at the Pluto direct motion. So what we tend to be doing quite often is that we look at when a planet goes retrograde, but actually we forget to check what happens when the planet goes direct. And it's just as important as the moment of the retrogression period. So Pluto will be going direct on the 7th of October. It's actually good news for plenty and not so good news for others. Because, for instance, those who are impacted or having too much water and earth signs in their chart, actually Pluto might want you to take some decisions this time around. And or if you have got too many fixed planets in your chart, then it can be a little bit uncomfortable. But Pluto will be followed by Saturn, who is going direct on the 12th of October, and then Jupiter on the 18th. So some things, if really slow down in your life, then actually you can start seeing some movement forward. I do believe that any karmic planets, meaning Saturn and Jupiter, or the transcendent planets, which are Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, moving backwards is actually very important. Now, specifically, we will be speaking about Pluto today. And I think I've got some interesting things to share in regards to Pluto as well, so that you might be able to look at Pluto a little bit in a different way by the end of the video. So it has got a 246 year to go around the ecliptic path, which is the sun's journey, really. It entered the sign of Capricorn in 2008 November. So it's been there since, and it will be spending another 3 years in this sign when finally it's going to go into the sign of Aquarius. Now, it is in the very last decan at the moment. So he is sitting on 24 degrees, and that decan is actually Virgo territory. So clearly, if we look at what Pluto wants to do in the sign of Capricorn, it wants to destroy systems. Right? And in the Virgo decan, it's actually medical systems it wants to destroy, right? And it's not just the Virgo decan, but within Virgo decan, actually Pluto is still sitting on Libra territories. So the connection between us, for instance, and the medical system, and then how we, how we welcome the medical system. Definitely there is some new energies coming into the medical fields. I'm sure you guys know that. Now, before we actually jump onto what this Pluto direct motion might actually indicate, let's just have a look at what the retrograde period is first. So the word retrograde is actually from a Latin word, retro, which means backwards, and gradus, which is actually step. So altogether, it means that the planet is actually stepping back. So let's just think about that for a second. So we tend to be saying that retrograde planet is all about kind of like internalizing things, and that's absolutely true. But I do believe that retrograde planets give you actually a chance to contemplate on certain things also, or it kind of gives you a little bit of a time, you know what, you don't need to worry about things at the moment. I give you a little bit of a rest. You've got, in case of Pluto, you've got 5.5 months to gather your strength, but then after I'm going to give it you harder. So we can also look at the retrograde planets as kind of like a resting period also. Okay. Now, by the way, these planets are not moving backwards. It's all about just our perception from Earth, how we see that. So I think, though, that when there are planets in retrograde motion, then it's definitely wanting to change our perspective. That's why we get a little bit of a time to actually have a rest from all the outside events, what is happening in the world or around us, because you're going to have to change the way you look at things. So, a retrograde period is like when you are holding in your breath and you actually not letting go. So imagine that you are swimming under the water for a very long time, and then you just keep pushing yourself so that you've got the air balloon within yourself. But then once it bursts, obviously you're going to pop out of the water, and then you're going to have a deep breath, something to do with a fresh start, basically. Yes, this is how I would be approaching retrograde planet. By the way, when a planet is retrograde, actually that's when it's closest to the Earth. So according to ancient astrology, that's when they have got the most power, or they are more powerful, or they are affecting our life a lot more. And they tend to be a little bit more spontaneous as well when we look at these planets. Now, also what's interesting about this Pluto retrograde is that it aligns with the new moon in Libra. So let's just examine what Pluto means first. So Pluto is said to be the planet of death. And yes, it does talk about that, you know, one day we're gonna die, absolutely. But don't look at it as the planet of death and someone will die. Look at it as letting go of an old something, or letting go of an old self of yours. And then actually there is this phoenix bird effect going on. So I leave something behind and I start something new. You know, I have been watching recently the series called Lucifer, and I was watching the last season, and it's so, the way how actually they portray Pluto, it is absolutely fascinating. So Pluto is not all about negative things. Remember that we need to die to be reborn. So it destroys things first, but then after it helps you to build something. It actually empowers you. What Pluto really wants you is that be you, be who you are, because it's your deepest desire. It's the higher octave of Mars, and Mars is all about what we want, right? Pluto doesn't care about what you want. Pluto is actually more about just to become who you are, dig deep, and then have a look at, you know, what your inner desires are in a long run. That's going to be very important here. Pluto rules over our obsessions and power, and it makes radical changes. It sometimes boosts our rage as well within us, but it always empowers you to get better. Now, a little bit of an interesting story about Pluto. So Pluto is the Roman god of the underworld, right? So think about the word underworld. Yes, we start thinking about, okay, it's the buried people, right? It's about death. True, but what else do we have underneath the earth? And we do have things like seeds. We do have things like, I don't know, stones and animals, and something to do with, you know, precious stones. So Pluto is the planet of richness, which is coming from underneath the earth. So, you know, Pluto, yes, he was the angel of death. And his role was about to decide which soul goes to a nice field and which soul gets thrown into hell. So actually, he was making these type of decisions. He was dividing people into two groups, and he was looking at what's worthwhile. So look at your Pluto this way, that, you know, it wants to kind of cut away the crap from your life, and then it wants you to give you something fresh instead, which you can bloom with. Now, you might be feeling a little bit of a Marsian energy here, right? Because Pluto is the higher octave of Mars, and Mars wants to cut the crap out of our life, but it gives us the motivation to become a go-getter and to achieve something. So that's the reason why we look at Pluto as the higher octave of Mars. It just does it on a larger scale. So in many cases, Pluto actually represents justice, in the chart as well, not just about death and transformation, what we can hear. Okay, so Pluto rules anything which is underneath the earth. And of course, you know, think about what do we do in during a new moon period, right? We tend to say that around new moon, we plant the seeds. Pluto is actually the planet of seed itself, right? So because it's all about putting something underneath the earth, and then it's gonna come to light. Eventually it's gonna come out, and then it's gonna be beautiful. Okay, so I think this Pluto going direct alongside with the new moon is actually marking a very important period of time in your life as well as in mine. Okay, so Pluto wants you to be the best version of yourself in a way, discovering who you really are. Remember that when you are examining Pluto, forget about the sign position. That's not so important. The house position is something to truly consider. So when you are looking at your natal chart, look at Pluto as a pot of gold. So it's something to do with your talent, but you have to nurture that seed within yourself. You have to have a tremendous amount of growth in that area of life so that you can start blooming with it. Okay, so yes, Pluto can bring death and life state decision making, especially with this new moon. I think it might get heightened once Venus will be conjuncting Pluto, which is going to be happening in the middle of December, because Venus is the planet of decision making. So, but already watch out for little signs, because you might be getting hints what decision you're going to have to make in December. So, you know, Capricorn wants to change the, Pluto in Capricorn wants to change the system within. It asks us to change the structure of our lives, which of course comes with borders. It's not just about the borders of the country, but something to do with your own borders as well. So, for instance, if you have got a personal relationship and then you kind of feel like you are on a borderline with the person, then, you know, can I actually stretch the borders, or, you know, it has already been crossed? So that's why the decision making could be coming with this Pluto going direct in our life. But Pluto is also the planet of performance. So how do we relate to work situations, right, Capricorn, or how the bosses actually relate to us? Or can we accept a leader? Can we not accept a leader? So some type of cooperation is involved here with this Pluto going direct, new moon in Libra. And of course, this new moon in Libra is in conjunction to Mars as well, which is very much about either giving us the passion and kind of stimulates us to plant the seeds, or actually it's aggravating those seeds and then it kind of wants them to grow a little bit quicker. So Pluto wants to change the economic situations significantly, but also your own economic situation too. So what type of changes I need to be making? And we do all know, once Pluto went into the sign of Capricorn in 2008, we had an economic crisis to deal with. So are we going to be having one more? Not necessarily, but we're going to be looking at the Pluto going direct chart in a second. So, but I also believe that it's all, very much about the responsibility, Capricorn. We need to be responsible, basically, right? And it might be for our financial situation, or even just the Earth itself, because Capricorn is, at the end of the day, is something to do with Earth elements. Now, also remember that Pluto was discovered in 1930, which was between two wars. So, of course, there was a huge transformation going on around that time, because they had to be rebuilding things. Pluto rules over your paranoid behavior. So Pluto going direct, you know, if we were paranoid in 2021 January, then we had to examine that, and then now we need to move away from it. So I did mention this 2021 January. Now, was the first time when actually Pluto gave you clues about what to expect in 2020 October onwards, while Pluto is actually hitting that 24 to 26 degree. So go back in your life, examine a little bit what was going on around 4th of January, and you might be seeing stories are repeating. Of course, we know what happened in the world. COVID was blooming, a new type of virus was around, but also there were these political arguments going on between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So we can actually expect one of these to somehow get escalated or something to come out of it. Some type of improvement, or you know, it just comes back onto our silver plate, the topic. That might be something to be aware of. I think this Pluto going direct with the new moon and Mars, I think some sleepers will wake up. I think it kind of will boost some rage within people, or actually their repressed feelings will be coming out in a sense, because it really is about suppressing your emotions. You know, Pluto is kind of like the explosives, the poison. So it's very possible that if you were kind of poisoned in January, then you might be experiencing something similar now. But Pluto, think about it this way. It's also your hidden talents. So did you have any type of hidden talent coming up in January? Because actually you need to move that forward now. And Pluto tells you whether you evolve or you die. And that's going to be the keyword with this new moon in Libra as well, which is a new, fresh start. And in Libra, it's all about, I'm going to be making that choice. Of course, if in January, for instance, it was all about hidden societies somehow being out there and then making appearances, then we should be experiencing something similar in October, probably between October and March as well. It's going to take a little while Pluto is going to get back to 26, almost 27 degree, when it's going to start a little bit of a new journey there too. Okay, Pluto overall indicates in mundane astrology something to do with the political underground. It's like an espionage, organized crime. So we can actually expecting those two. If something comes up, let's say tomorrow or in 2 days when it has started, then think about it this way. It already started in January, actually. Okay, it talks about hidden information. So those could be coming out as well. It talks about the mob psychology, kind of like the collective unconscious. So hopefully the collective unconscious will awaken to a certain extent. But it is the planet which talks about wealth, plenty of money, control, how you are controlled by money and how you control your own money as well. It is the planet of rape and violence and organized crimes and so on. Now, looking at the chart of Pluto going direct, because this is what's going to tell us what to expect in the next 5 months. Remember, it's going to take about 5 months to go back to that 27 degree, 26.48, when it kind of started its journey backwards. And there are some very interesting aspects there too. So, of course, Pluto is squaring the moon. So that's where that kind of collective shadow of people is coming into the picture. People might become a lot more resistant about power struggles, and people might want to make those radical changes. or overall, they just want to be standing up for themselves. Now, Pluto is actually also squaring Mercury. So this could show that the power of words, how much it might count. So on a personal level, it definitely tells you to speak out loud, you know, what my fears are. But it's also very good for some type of research as well. So do a little bit of a digging in regards to what was going on, for instance, in January, so that this Pluto square Mercury becomes a little bit easier for you. And of course, we've got Pluto conjuncting Saturn's north node. Now, I don't think I've ever spoken about planetary nodes, but think about it this way. Each planet has got their nodes. So like the moon has got the south node and the north node, exactly the same with other planets as well. So Saturn has got its north node sitting around 24-25 degree of Capricorn. And it kind of stays there almost for a very long time, actually. So it is like a conjunction between Pluto and Saturn. So that 2020 Pluto and Saturn conjunction is unfortunately kind of repeating. Unfortunately. And of course, we still have got the Pluto square Aries as well, which I made a video about, so I don't necessarily want to be talking about that. So this is how I see this Pluto going direct. So it's going to bring up topics in regards to the borders. I think it's going to bring up topics about travel opportunities, of course, the medical system, how the medical system will be changing. We might be seeing some development in that topic in the next 6 months, but definitely it talks about that people might become a lot more paranoid as well. And with this new moon and Mars, they might become very rageful. So thank you very much for your attention and see you very shortly. Bye-bye.